So, elves. Let's go down to elves. Elves mingle freely in human lands, always welcome yet never at home there. They are well known for their poetry, dance, song, lore, and magical arts. Elves favor things for natural and simple beauty. When danger threatens their woodland homes, however, they reveal a more martial side, demonstrating skill with a sword, bow, and battle strategy. Elves are more often amused than excited, and more likely to be curious than greedy. With such a long lifespan, they tend to have a broad perspective on events. Scroll down to elves. Maintaining aloof and unfazed but petty happenstance. When pursuing a goal, however, whether an adventurous mission or learning a new skill or art, they can be focused and relentless. They are slow to make friends and enemies, and even slower to forget them. They reply to petty insults with disdain, and to serious insults with vengeance. Elves are short and slim, standing about 4.5 feet to 5 feet tall, typically weighing from 95 to 135 pounds. Elf men the same height as and only marginally heavier than elf women. They are graceful but frail. They tend to be pale-skinned and dark-haired with deep green eyes. Elves have no facial or body hair. They simply prefer comfortable clothes, especially in pastel blues and greens, and they enjoy simple yet elegant jewelry. Elves possess unearthly grace and fine features. Many humans and members of other races find them hauntingly beautiful. An elf reaches adulthood at about 110 years of age and can live to be more than 700 years old. Wow. Elves do not sleep. That is important. As members of other common races do. Instead, an elf meditates in a deep trance for 4 hours a day. An elf resting in this fashion gains the same benefit as a human from 8 hours of sleep. While meditating, an elf dreams, though these dreams are actually mental exercises that have become reflex through years of practice. The common word for an elf's meditation is trance, as in 4 hours of trance. Relations. Elves consider humans rather unrefined, halflings a bit stand, gnomes a bit trivial, and dwarves not at all fun. They look on half-elves with some degree of pity, and they regard half-orcs with unrelenting suspicion. While haughty, elves are not particularly the way half-orcs are. Wow. While haughty, elves are not particular the way halflings dwarves can be. They are generally pleasant and gracious, even to those who fall short of elven standards. So they're kind of pompous, and they're like, "Oh, you poor thing." You're skipping alignment. Elven lands. Most elves live in woodland clans, numbering less than 200 souls. They don't have a lot of people. Their well-hidden villages blend into trees, doing little harm to the forest. They hunt game, gather food, grow vegetables, and their skill and magic allow them to support themselves happily without need of clearing or plowing land. Their contact with outsiders is usually limited. Though some few elves make a good living trading finely worked elven clothes or crafts and metals that elves have no interest in mining. So lots of times they'll go out and they'll get stuff because they don't want to make it or damage the earth by making it. Elves encountered in human lands are commonly wandering minstrels, favored artists, or sages. Human nobles compete for services of elf instructors who teach swordplay to their children. And names. When an elf declares himself an adult, usually sometime after her 100th birthday, she also selects a name. For those who knew her name as a youngster, may or may not continue to call her by her, in quote, child name, and she may or may not care. An elf's adult name is a unique creation, though it may reflect the names of those she admires or the names of others in her family. In addition, she bears her family name. Family names are a combination of regular elven words. Some elves, traveling along humans, translate their family names into common, while others continue to use their elven version. And they list They have a nice fancy pictures compared to humans, half-elves, and elves. And then they list a bunch of fancy names for you to use as reference. Elves take up adventuring out of wanderlust. Life among humans moves at a pace that elves dislike, regimented from day to day, but changing from decade to decade. Elves among humans therefore find careers that allow them to wander freely and set their own pace. Elves also enjoy demonstrating their prowess with a sword and bow, and gaining greater magical powers, and adventuring allows them to do so. Good elves may also be rebels or crusaders. As you can see, just right here, you can see, hey, they get +2 dexterity, but they're not really hardy. That makes sense, right? It goes over low light vision. An elf can see twice as far as human in starlight, moonlight, torchlight, and similar conditions of poor illumination. She retains the ability to distinguish color and detail under these conditions. Then it goes over weapons that they can use, which you will need to know for combat and whenever you're deciding what kind of class you want to pick. So we'll go back to that later. Gnomes! My least favorite. Fantastic. Gnomes are welcome everywhere as technicians, alchemists, and inventors. Despite the demand for their skills, most gnomes prefer to remain among their kind, living in comfortable burrows beneath rolling, wooded hills where animals are abound. Gnomes adore animals, beautiful gems, jokes of all kinds. Members of this race have a great sense of humor, and while they love puns, jokes, and games, they also relish tricks. The more intricate, the better. They apply the same dedication to more practical arts, such as engineering, as they do to their pranks. It sounds familiar. Gnomes are inquisitive, though they love to find things out by personal experience. At times, they're even reckless. Their curiosity makes them skilled engineers, since they're always trying to find new ways to build things. Sometimes a gnome pulls a prank just to see how the people involved will react. Physical description. Gnomes are short. Gnomes stand about 3 to 3.5 feet tall and weigh from 40 to 45 pounds. Their skin ranges from dark tan to woody brown, and their hair is fair, and their eyes can be any shade of blue. Gnomes prefer short, carefully trimmed beards. Gnomes generally wear leather or earth tones, and they decorate their clothes with intricate stitching or fine jewelry. Gnomes reach adulthood at about age 40, and they typically live from about 350 years, though some can live to almost 500 years. Gnomes get along well with dwarves, who share their love for precious objects, their curiosity about medical devices, and their hatred of goblins and giants. They enjoy the company of halflings, especially those who are easygoing, even to put up with pranks and jests. Most gnomes are a little suspicious of taller races, humans, elves, half-orcs, but rarely hostile or malicious. Skipping alignment. Gnomes make their homes in hilly wooded lands. They live underground, but get more fresh air than dwarves do, enjoying the natural living world on the surface whenever they can. Their homes are well hidden by both clever construction and illusions. Those who come to visit and are welcome are ushered into the bright, warm burrows, and those who are not welcome never find the burrows in the first place. Gnomes who settle in human lands are commonly gin cutters, merchants, mechanics, sages, or tutors. Some human families retain gnome tutors. During his life, a gnome tutor can teach several generations of a single human family. Gnomes love names, and most have half a dozen or so. As a gnome grows up, his mother gives him a name, his father gives him a name, his clan elder gives him a name, his aunts and uncles give him names, and he gains nicknames from just about anyone. Gnome names are typically variants of the names of ancestors or descendant relatives, though some are purely new inventions. When dealing with humans or others who have rather stuffy about names, a gnome learns to act as if he has no more than 3 names. So if a person's like, why do you have so many names? I can't believe you. They're like, oh, I guess I only have 3 names. When dealing with humans, a personal name, a clan name, and a nickname. When deciding which of his several names to use among humans, the gnome generally chooses one that is the most fun to say. Gnome clan names are combinations of gnome words, and gnomes almost always translate them into common when in human lands, or into elven when in elven lands, and so on. They list a bunch of names for your convenience. Gnomes are curious and impulsive. They may take up adventuring as a way to see the world, or for the love of exploring. Lawful gnomes, which is an alignment we'll go over later, may adventure to set things right and to protect the innocent, demonstrating the same sense of duty towards society as a whole that gnomes generally exhibit toward their own enclaves. As lovers of gems and other fine items, some gnomes take to adventuring as a quick, if dangerous, path to wealth. Depending on his relations to his home clan, an adventuring gnome may be seen as a vagabond or even something of a traitor. Why would you leave us, abandoning your clan responsibilities? Below it lists a bunch of things. Gnomes also have low light vision, the same as elves. See if there's anything else here. There's a bunch of dodge bonuses, things like that for rogues. They make good rogues. All this stuff we will go over later. Now we're getting to half-elves. Things everybody wants to play in WoW, but nobody's really good at. Humans and elves sometimes wed. The elf attracted to the human's energy, and the human to the elf's grace. These marriages end quickly as elves count years because of humans' life is so brief. But they leave an enduring legacy, half-elf children. The life of a half-elf can be hard. If raised by elves, the half-elf seems to grow with astounding speed, reaching maturity within just 2 decades. The half-elf becomes an adult long before she has time to learn the intricacies of elven art and culture, and even grammar. She leaves behind her childhood friends, becoming physically an adult but culturally still a child by elven standards. Typically, she leaves her elven home, which is no longer familiar, and finds her way among humans. If, on the other hand, she is raised by humans, the half-elf finds herself different from her peers, more aloof, more sensitive, less ambitious, and slower to mature. Some half-elves try to fit in among humans, while others find their identities in their differences. Most find places for themselves in human lands, but some feel like an outsider for their entire lives. So sad. Most half-elves have curiosity, intuitiveness, and the ambition of a human parent, along with the refined senses, love of nature, and artistic taste of the elven parent. To humans, half-elves look like elves. To elves, they look like humans. Indeed, elves call them half-humans, and half-elves probably call them... Yeah. I'm just talking in circles. Half-elf height ranges from 5 feet to about 6 feet, and weight usually ranges from 100 to 180 pounds. Half-elf men are taller and heavier than half-elf women, but the difference is less pronounced than is found among humans. Half-elves are paler, fairer, and smoother skinned than their human parents, but their actual skin tone, hair color, and other details vary just as much as human features do. Half-elf eyes are green, just as those of their elf parents. A half-elf reaches adulthood at about age 20 and can live for more than 180 years. Most half-elves are children of human-elf pairings. Some, however, are children of parents who themselves are partly human or partly elf. Some of these second-generation half-elves have human-like eyes, but most still have green eyes. Half-elves do well among elves and humans, but they also get along great with dwarves, gnomes, and halflings. They have elven grace without elven aloofness, and human energy without human boorishness. They make excellent ambassadors and go-betweens, except between elves and humans, since each side suspects the half-elf for favoring the other. In human lands where elves are distant or not too friendly or not friendly terms with other races, however, half-elves are viewed with suspicion. Some half-elves show a marked disfavor towards half-orcs. Perhaps their similarity between themselves and half-orcs or partly human lineage makes half-elves uncomfortable. You're half too. I don't want to be around you. We're both halfies. Skipping alignment. Half-elven lands. Half-elves have no lands of their own, though they are welcome in human cities and elven forests. In large cities, half-elves sometimes form small communities of their own. Half-elves use either their human or their elven name in naming conventions. Ironically, a half-elf raised among humans is often given an elven name in honor of her heritage, as a half-elf raised among elves often takes a human name. Half-elves find themselves drawn to strength, careers, and unusual company. Taking up the life of an adventurer becomes easy to many of them. Like elves, they are driven by wanderlust. Half-elves also have low-light vision. Humans are just lame. They don't get anything. It says here elven blood for anything that would normally affect an elf. It also affects a half-elf.